Hey, what's going on, Pirate Myth for fans? And in today's video, we're going to be taking a look, unboxing, and reviewing, not this, but we're going to be looking at the brand new wave, okay, maybe not the newest wave, I know, but wave 18 of the Jakks Pacific Sonic the Hedgehog 4-inch line with some added additions from the 2.5-inch line that have some, kind of correlation to the figures we're looking at here today. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the first figure of this wave, and that is going to be the one I'm most excited for, Vector the freaking Crocodile. This looks amazing. Yeah, he looks very funny in this box, and just taking a look at him from the box, you can tell that this is going to be a massive figure compared to the other characters of this 4-inch line. But taking a look at the back of the box, we do see the other characters part of this wave, and that is a modern Sonic, which of course I already have a modern Sonic, so I didn't get that one. Vector that we're looking at here today, classic Amy and classic Metal Sonic, and we will be getting to those after this guy. But without further ado, hey, what's going on, guys? But yeah, all jokes aside, man, here is Vector, and again, I say this every time we look at Jakks Pacific figures, but Jakks Pacific just knocks it out of the park, man. With their sculpts, their models look ripped out straight out of the game, bro. Like, this is spot on accurate from the proportions to the detailing there with like the little lines in between his crocodile skin. Sheesh, man, he's got those like Yoshi spines going on all the way back to the tail. It does look like we have some tail articulation there we'll be looking at in a sec. The only thing I can really, think that I don't think looks like perfect on this is just, some painting here. Like this, his chain could have been like a metallic paint, but again, it is a $10 figure, so I can't complain that much about that because for a $10 figure, man, it's Vector time. So yeah, I guess for articulation, we'll start off here with the jaw. And yeah, there actually is some mouth articulation. I wasn't even expecting that. But looking inside of the Croc's mouth, we do have like some actual teeth detail, which is insane. Again, I've said this already, but $10 figure. The chain does wiggle around a little bit, you can see there. Oh wait, there actually is like an attachment point in there. Okay, yeah, I don't think it's supposed to be wiggling like that, but I mean, you can barely see it anyway. But the head does actually have rotation there. I was not expecting that, especially because like he has no neck, and it's really seamless because you're not seeing the the turning because it's covered by the chain. Not sure how far back he can go. I don't want to push him any further back than that to risk breaking the figure, but you can kind of see there the illusion is breaking there a bit, so we're just gonna go ahead and but moving on to the arms here, I love the wacky cartoony proportions here. His arms do actually have a little bit of whatever you call that going there, and he does have elbow joints here. Okay, he can go back about there, breaking his elbow, and then back about that way too. You do get a full 360 there with the hands, and they do go pretty far back like that, so you can really just make him dunk like that if you want. But moving on to the feet, we're not gonna get any knee joints here just because of his baby crocodile feet, but you do get some nice, actually glossy kicks here. Not any detailing on the bottom unless you call the licensing detailing, and you can make him do that a split. That's very weird for a figure. I feel like we don't usually see. Oh my god, we're moving on to the back here. It does look like he has some tail articulation there, if you can't see that. But yeah, when you actually move the tail, you kind of just see it kills, the illusion, the seamlessness of this figure. But I mean, that's to be expected because I mean, how else would they do that? And I guess we'll quickly compare him height-wise. And I am glad, see, this is the modern Sonic that you can't get in the wave. And look at that. The scaling is pretty good, I would say. At least the last time I saw these two side by side, I feel like that looks right to me. He is obviously bigger, even though they're still both 4-inch figures. But we also have this guy I just picked up. Yeah, that's a tiny Vector here. But nonetheless, let's crack this sucker open. Okay, yeah, that's probably not the best way you want to go ahead and treat your Sonic toys, but look at this guy here. Very tiny. I like how tiny. He's like bite-sized Vector. It's funny because this has always been notoriously a larger character, but now he's tiny. And quick little size comparison. What the frick happened? That's funny. You can just see here side by side, this looks exactly the same. It's so weird. They just, minus all the insane articulation, but he does still retain that head articulation side to side like that. Looking really nice on this Vector model. But actually, wait, what the? He has a different hand. We don't have elbow joints on this tiny version, but I don't think any of the 2.5-inch figures have elbow joints. There's no way they got that tail articulation on the 2.5-inch figure. That's insane. Wait, what? How does your cheaper, tinier figure have the shoe detail, which looks insanely good, but your $10 figure doesn't? But overall though, I really do enjoy both of these Vector figures, the 4-inch and the 2.5-inch. While they do both have some pros and cons, I think even if you're not the biggest Vector fan, this is a no-brainer figure to get whenever you see it, just because of how unique it is. The detailing is literally ripped out of the games, and you can put him in insanely funny poses like this, and you can make him chuck his tiny counterpart. Go long, Espio! Oh, next up in the line, however, is the 4-inch classic Amy figure here, and this is a first, for the 4-inch scheme. We did already have her in her 2.5-inch version, which I don't have, but now we have her here in the 4-inch scale, and I know not everyone is 100% on 4-inch Jakks Pacific classic figures because they don't really scale at all with your modern figures. But real quick before we open this thing up, there is the back of the box for you there, the barcode, the rest of the wave, 12 points of articulation, and a little description there. You can pause if you want to read that. Without further ado, let's go ahead and crack this thing open! Get over here! Alright, well next up here we have classic Amy, and look at that mold, man. Again, the molds are insane. It does look very, cartoony with the black and white eyes, and I think I really enjoy how this looks. We'll start off here with the head sculpt here. Look at how amazing that looks, man. The hair tuft, it's so dynamic and unique. It really adds a lot of personality and character to this, especially with those black and white cartoony eyes and these eyelashes. They actually are textured, they're raised, they're not just paint, if you can see that there. Moving on to the back of the head, I love this classic Amy design. I just like how her head was basically just Sonic's head, but pink. I don't know, it was oddly satisfying to me. But for some reason, there's like a black scratch on my figure. Not sure what that is about. Maybe a little wipe off, hopefully. And as for the fit down here, you have this classic colorful green. Ooh, look at that. That's cool. That detail, man, of the bow actually going down there. I'm pretty sure she just always has had just one quill in the back there like that. That looks very funny. It's just like a little shark fin back there. And yeah, as for the skirt here though, it is very rigidy. It looks like some ruffles, and the kicks here do have detail there. A lot of attention to detail here. Before we get into the articulation, I do want to give you some size comparisons here. You can kind of see why people aren't the biggest fans of the 4-inch ones, because that doesn't really make sense. But if we move things around, we can clearly see that the 2.5-inch classic figure scales way better with the 4-inch one compared to that. But I don't really care anyways. I think this is really cool just on its own. Just ignore the scaling for a bit. This looks awesome. But as we move on to the articulation, I don't think we're going to be getting anything too crazy here just because it is a classic character. So I assume we're just going to have, basic stuff like that. But the arms do go back and forth a little bit, and I do believe they can go up. Whoa, waist swivel on a Sonic Jakks figure? And yeah, her feet here are very tiny, but she does have a little joint in there. So she is able to kick forward a little bit, but again, you're not going to get much articulation just because of the design. Like, the skirt's going to get in the way. But if you're a fan of Amy and just want some cool representation of the classic Amy, which I feel like we don't really see a lot nowadays, this is the figure for you. And hey, they just re-released it again in Wave 20, so if you really do want this Amy, there you go. She's gonna be everywhere soon. Okay, and I might have skipped out on the accessories. I'll quickly cover these. For Vector, you do get the 10 ring here, which is a little bit useless. And for Amy here, you do get this little yellow Chaos Emerald, which I always found this Chaos Emeralds to look very yummy and shiny in the light. I guess we'll just taste it out real quick. Before we get to the classic Sonic part of this wave though, But in Wave 20, they will be re-releasing this classic Amy there, but alongside that classic Amy, they will be re-releasing 4-inch Espio there, and holy crap, that's going to be cool for all of you that missed on Espio. But also, for the first time ever, they'll be turning this Espio into the baby 2.5-inch Espio. So that's kind of how this all links up, So real quick, we'll go over this guy, but I did find this guy in the merch hunt at Macy's. And it is interesting because it is actually a different packaging style here. This is the new packaging style that I got for Vector here. This is kind of what they've been doing at Walmart's, but I guess at Macy's they have this old clamshell design, which looks cool if you want to display your figure. But we're not going to be displaying that here today because we're going to be opening this up nice and softly and gently and get over here. But here's the tiny Espio compared to the big Espio. Yeah, big difference of course, but what we're here for is not the articulation. That's not what we really come here for with these tiny guys, but for the detailing. And honestly, starting off with the boots, man, they are detailed pretty good there. You can see there's like wraps around there, the buttons. The bottoms of the shoes aren't detailed at all. Are they detailed on here? No, okay, that's just the thing, Espios, they're not detailed at all. But the gloves here, which I think is a really important part of Espio's design, are detailed pretty great there. He does have the little heart moon shape there, and his actual spikes on the back look pretty good. And he does have his tail, which is more of a connected piece there than how it was like a less connected piece, rubbery piece on this one here. Of course, that would probably break on a tinier scale, so that's why they did that. But as for the head sculpt here, it's literally just spot on to what they did with the 4-inch one here. They simply just, you know, shrunk it down in their factory, I guess, because that's literally the same thing. But yeah, overall, not much articulation with this guy, but I feel like just the fact that we have a tiny Espio figure and a big Espio figure is a big win for all Espio fans, and who knows, this guy might become rare to find over the coming years just because of how niche of a character he is. So I'm glad to have him in my collection right now. Last but not least, however, it's finally time to open up the figure I've been somewhat most excited about, just because I think he looks very funny and scrunkly, and he comes with a really cool looking accessory there, probably the coolest accessory we've got here today, classic metal Sonic. But quickly moving on to the back of the box, we do see the other characters in the wave again, and your description there, Knee does come with 13 points of articulation. But without further ado, I guess we'll start off with this, just to switch things up. This is probably the coolest accessory out of all these accessories that we've got in here today, and it's this little like end goal post from the video games. No way, this is a fidget spinner, bro. What? Man, that's sick, bro. That would have been really cool if like Sonic was on the other side. Holy crap, y'all. Why does he look so menacing right there? He's so evil, so big foreheaded. It's classic metal Sonic. But there's your quick little height comparison there. Of course, a tiny one's gonna make more sense, you know, for scaling and stuff, but we're not here for the scaling here today. We are here for that detail. And look at that sculpt, man. Sheesh! Now that is the sharpest cut I've ever seen, bro. We have his face here, which this kind of looks like a sticker. His eyes there. I don't think it is. It just kind of looks like that, though. But then we have his little body here, which does have some good depth there. Good paint in there, too, for you there. Moving on to the back, we have even more great detail here with his repulsor jet thing that he boosts himself on forward with. And I like how these like screws here on Metal Sonic's design actually help, you know, for the joints here. And yeah, he has elbow joints. I don't know, it's kind of weird because Jakks doesn't always give you elbow joints on these guys. I just noticed they gave it to us on Vector, but not on Classic Amy. But they always tend to give it to us on the robot characters. And as for his kicks, they're pretty spot on, man. Mold again is insane with Jakks. Yeah, no detail at the bottom of the kicks though, and neither did this classic 2.5-inch one. But yeah, let's quickly show off the articulation, which I don't think there will be much. Similar to the classic Amy one, the classic figures don't have that much articulation. You can't really go past here or else you're gonna probably be bending this jet repulsor area, so I'll leave it like that. But that does look sick, him looking over his shoulder like that though. It is kind of looking though like I'm not gonna be able to lift his hand up at all really, because his shoulder pad here will bump into his face there. On his feet though, he does have an elbow joint, which looks a little weird though, but it is because of his robotic nature. But he can go back to about there and forward to about there, so you can give him a cool flying pose like that if you really want. Holy crap. Yeah, this figure is like ripped right out of like Sonic CD. Whoosh! Yeah, that's freaking sick. Holy crap, y'all. That does it for Wave 18. It was pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. While Wave 18 wasn't the coolest wave ever with brand new characters that we haven't completely seen before, it was nice to get, you know, 4-inch versions of Classic Amy and Classic Metal Sonic just to help complete the Classic 4-inch line, which honestly was starting to slow down, but it seems like now they've kind of just gone full Classic mode a bit, so I don't know if that was the right move, to be honest. But besides those two in the modern Sonic of this wave, it was very nice and I'm very appreciative to finally have Vector here in my collection, because the last time he released was in Wave 10 and that was a good while ago, so I love when they include a re-release that we haven't seen in a bit in a wave. It's very nice for, you know, new collectors and old collectors if you want another one in the box, I guess, right? But I want to know in the comments down below which one of these figures was your favorite that we unboxed here today, or what figure from Wave 18 do you have in your own personal collection? I want to know in the comments down below. And if you really did enjoy this unboxing and review, I would appreciate it a ton. Not just me, but Vector here. We would appreciate it a ton if you leave a like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. Lets me know you love these type of videos. I got a whole bunch of more videos coming up soon with new reviews and a whole bunch of videos in the catalog for you to enjoy if you really did enjoy this video. And me and Vector, hi Baby Weasel. I gotta go check on Baby Weasel. I know you guys heard that little baby meow. But we will be seeing you in the next one. Vector, say bye to them. I gotta go see Vanilla.